I'm Lorna Duick, and this is Context. Anti-immigration in Canada, a show of force to protest asylum seekers in Quebec and Ottawa, is met with anti-racist protesters who clash over Haitian asylum seekers and new immigrants to Canada.
We were able to raise $4,500.
A pastor in Montreal explains what the church is doing during this crisis. Will some of the illegal asylum seekers have to go back to Haiti this coming January? What does the future hold for more than 7,000 Haitians in Montreal looking to live in Canada?
We mobilize all the church to help, and we partnership with other churches.
Our Sheldon Neal visits Montreal and discovers how faith across all the churches is serving as a tool of recovery for many looking to make Canada their home. What's the right thing to do when Haitian asylum seekers jump the queue? I'll have my snapshot on that later. And now a context update. Puerto Rico is still on our hearts.
The food is not enough. The gas is not enough, so everybody's fighting to get whatever is available.
3 weeks after Hurricane Maria hit, people in Puerto Rico are still picking up the pieces.
We want the people of Puerto Rico to know that their plight challenges the conscience of our country.
The damage to the island of 3.4 million has been called apocalyptic. Thousands are still without power, running water, or even consistent food. The governor of the island has asked Congress for $4.6 billion to meet immediate emergency needs. Some experts say it will take more than a decade to rebuild. We caught up with Frank Famada, a Puerto Rican who experienced the hurricane just outside San Juan.
The night that the hurricane hit, basically, it gives a whole new meaning to the phrase howling winds. The sound was overwhelming, overpowering. You can hear the wind and the gusts hitting the home. And you can hear, even from the very beginning of the hurricane, before the worst part of it hit, you could hear trees falling down and the cracking of the tree barks around the house. Definitely during the storm, I spoke many times with God. One of the main things I just kept praying was for mercy, not just for myself, but for the whole island. I have a big palm tree in the back of in the backyard, and I have a wooden terrace. And I saw it crack and start falling, but it looked like somebody was holding the palm tree and placing it on top of the roof. It looked really strange for the palm tree to be falling in such a soft and such a slow manner, because it was in the peak of the storm. This is when the gusts were 200 miles per hour gusts of winds. So I just felt like God was an angel or something was holding the palm tree. There's people dying right now. There's infants in the hospitals that have died because there's lack of electricity. People in the airport, before it got normalized, there's at least three deaths of people because of heat stroke. There's a lot of homes. I mean, we're probably hundreds, if not thousands of homes that have been destroyed by the hurricane. So people are without a shelter. We have no electricity. There's 9% of the island only has electricity, so it's 90% without it. 55% of the island is without running water. So a lot of the food stuff is scarce. So things are very dire.
We are dying, and you are killing us with the inefficiency.
I think what she was trying to say in her message was, look, we really need help. We need as much help as we can right now, as quickly as possible. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy being done by FEMA, the emergency agency. So that's one of her reactions. So to her to have received Donald Trump's backlash was, I think, unnecessary under the circumstances. Even Jesus said, we will go through struggles, and his promise was he will be with us even through any crisis that we might face. He will always be with us. Life will happen, and this is part of life. Hurricanes do happen. I think it's important to know that 3 major hurricanes occurred within a month, which is unheard of. A 100-year storm hit Texas, Hurricane Harvey, and brought 100-year floods. You had a Category 5 storm right after another Category 5 storm, Irma and Maria in the Caribbean. In recorded history, that has never happened. And we're seeing more and more hurricanes of this magnitude become the norm. And I think this brings up the discussion of climate change. We're bringing this onto ourselves, and God is just, He has provided us with free will, and if we want to abuse nature for our own desires, that's just our decision, and we will pay our own consequences. Like Paul says, he is quick to forgive sins, but the consequences of sins are very hard to erase.
Well, our analysis focus this week is the illegal issue of Haitian migrants crossing over into Quebec. And Sheldon Neal, you went down to Quebec to see what's going on. First of all, give us a sense. It's 7,000 Haitians.
That's right.
Is not a small number.
That's right, over 7,000 Haitians. Now, this is a story that is gripping Canadians from coast to coast, and the numbers are staggering. Just to give a sense of how it affects us as a nation, I want to read some recent statistics by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada show that as of August, over 27,000 claims for asylums have been filed in Canada. It's the highest numbers record since 2009. And the influx of asylum seekers showing up at the Canada-U.S. border, no doubt they're saying is really much contributing to Haitian asylum seekers arriving. That's why those numbers are going to go through the roof. So this is rocking our nation.
Okay. You were not allowed at the border, though. We wanted you to go right to the border to see what's going on.
That's right.
Why not? Why were you not allowed?
We went back to back, and I really went, if he's watching, he's probably shaking his head saying yes, with a spokesperson for the Canada Services Border Agency. And they said they've been kind of really maintaining the presence of media from a week-to-week basis in an effort to protect the identities of many Haitian asylum seekers arriving.
It feels like they're trying to chill it. They
That's
don't
correct.
want media coverage
That's
at the
correct.
border.
That's
they don't
right.
want us to know that there are like over 1,000 people a week.
That's right. Now, you've probably seen a lot of the gripping pictures of maybe Haitian asylum seekers in compounds, in tents, makeshift tents.
But you were not allowed to go
That's
there.
right. They used to be open to media, but they say we're going to close that off to protect their identities. If you want to film, you're going to have to be behind the gate, they said, which of course is of no use to us really getting into those stories that again are gripping so many people.
Okay. You did know, though, that there was a story in the big-hearted Haitian church in Montreal.
That's right.
What did you find?
We were on the ground talking with a wonderful church, l'Église La Mission, that have really been reuniting across churches across Montreal with a Haitian heart. There are Haitian pastors. Both their parents came from Haiti to Canada, so they have those rich ties there about how could we not just lend a helping hand and be the voice of Christ, but the feeding hands of Christ in a way that really brings recovery. I also went across the denominational lines, and we caught up with the Roman Catholic Church to talk about a transitional home they're building that's going to house up to 50 asylum seekers, but watch this, mainly for women and children specifically who are trying to get a leg up in this nation.
Okay. What's the sense? Do these people know they may not be allowed to stay here because they're not fleeing violence, they're not fleeing persecution, they're fleeing absolute poverty?
You know, Lauren, when I sat down with the pastor and his wife at a local coffee shop downtown Montreal, they've been meeting asylum seekers day after day. They said, you know what, they're not even thinking about tomorrow. They're so desperate to just get to a land of peace. They're not thinking, will we be here a year from now, 2 years from now? What's going to happen with all the mechanics surrounding us? They're just saying, we're here. Can we get some clothes on our back, a place to stay? They're facing issues like, what are we going to eat tonight? Lodging. If they're coming with children, where's my child going to go to school? Much less, where will we be a year from now? It's heavy stuff.
All right. Well, let's take a look at what you've brought us back, Sheldon, from Montreal.
Bonjour à tous. Nous voulons remercier. Ouais. Donc nous voulons remercier toute l'église.
In a candid video recorded on their phone, Haitian pastor Bartholomew Gaspard and Cynthia Gaspard thanked their church members for mobilizing and donating clothes and resources to Haitian asylum seekers coming in great number to Montreal, Quebec.
Féliciter toute l'église à mission, mais
They also thanked surrounding churches for answering the call of social justice and coming to the aid of people. I caught up with them at a local coffee shop to hear more on how their church in Montreal is responding to the more than 7,000 asylum seekers arriving to their city from the U.S. and why the church, now more than ever, is needed in times of crisis.
All the church came with all their bags and all the clothes, and we mobilized all the church to help, and we partnership with other churches. So some of them serving for food, and they said, okay, I'm gonna help for food, we're gonna help for clothes. Everybody worked as a body of Christ.
The Gaspards say the Haitian asylum seeker crisis is an opportunity to tangibly be the hands and feet of Jesus to people in need and walk out the mission of their church. The asylum seeker crisis also strikes a personal chord. Both their parents are Haitian.
We teach our people to be on mission, and not to go simply to church, but be the church. So God is giving us opportunity to serve others, to be in our community, to make a difference in our community.
Recent statistics by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada show that as of August, over 27,000 claims for asylum have been filed in Canada, highest numbers yet since 2009. The influx of asylum seekers showing up at the Canada-US border, no doubt contributing to the growing number. Speaking to some Montrealers on whether they feel their city is equipped to handle such an influx of people, the responses are positive.
Oh, they'll get used to it. They'll get used to it, no problem.
Certainly, yes.
Other faith denominations are certain about its response to the crisis. I spoke to the coordinator for the diocesan outreach to refugees and asylum seekers at the offices of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Montreal about a new transitional home being built to house and care for up to 50 asylum seekers with the help of volunteers.
Transitioning home for these people, specifically for you, women and children. Of course,
that's what you built?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, that there is a family in need. We take everybody, so we don't close the doors to everybody. We can be there to help you to receiving these people, or we can support you to give you clothes. We give you food. We give you bed.
But despite the goodwill extended by many, some people say the influx of people illegally crossing the border seeking asylum are jumping the queue. Immigration lawyer and former advisor under Prime Minister Brian Mulroney's Conservative government, Neil Dropkin, is one of them. At the center of this argument is the Safe Third Country Agreement, an agreement made between Canada and the U.S., governing where people can claim asylum on either side of the border. The agreement states would-be refugees must claim asylum in the first country they enter, so those crossing into Canada from the U.S. are crossing illegally. Santo Padre says the issue of people jumping the queue is a case of separating the job of the church and that of the government, each sticking to its own lane.
I think that there is something that the government has to do. They're processing these files, so it's their job. My job as responsible and working for the diocese is to welcome everybody.
Back at the local coffee shop, speaking to the Gaspards on the same point, to them, it's a point of bringing balance between faith and rule of law.
We must inform them about the law of the country, but at first they need some primary help. So we show them love, and after that, when they fill out some forms, we help them about the forms, and also we inform them about the law of the country.
With more on the Haitian asylum seekers crisis, here's Molly Thomas.
Monsieur, anglais, français, English or French?
That's the first question to thousands of asylum seekers coming across our border. This entry point, Roxham Road, is one of the busiest in the country.
You are asking me how unusual those numbers are. They're unprecedented. We've never seen those numbers.
More than 8,500 asylum claims since July. Temporary refugee camps have been set up in the area, and an Olympic stadium was first used. The challenge becomes greater as winter approaches. Most people fleeing are of Haitian descent. After the 2010 earthquake, some Haitians received protective status to live and work in the U.S. That timeline is almost up. But coming to Canada means these newcomers must prove their lives are at risk back home.
Do they have a well-founded fear of persecution today in Haiti? And if they do not, if they're afraid of poverty and destitution or high crime, most likely they'll be refused refugee status.
Canada is internationally known for welcoming in people in distress. This tweet from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau exemplifies that spirit. The question is whether asylum seekers are getting a watered-down version of our values.
But there have been a lot of news, fake news on social media, that's one. There is a belief also that Canada's immigration is more humane.
In the past few months, Quebec has processed people from the U.S., Nigeria, Turkey, Burundi, and Mexico. So how are Montrealers feeling about this?
Canada, we're a multicultural country, and we're trying, I think any country should be helping people who are being displaced or they need, another country to have safe haven or have a better life.
Everybody here is refugee, regardless, because here belongs to the Indians, and they have rights just like anybody else.
I suppose that they come here because they feel that they are welcome here. I imagine so. So, I can't really disagree with them wanting to be in a better place.
Despite the kind sentiment, paper is piling up for border service agents who process those newcomers, and for the Immigration and Refugee Board that must approve or deny that claim. If you look at August alone, we know that 5,530 people claimed asylum in Quebec, but only 510 claims have been processed. Remember, this only adds to the backlog for this agency. The IRB says they have a backlog of 29,000 new refugee claims. Their goal? To finalize 2,000 claims a month. If we stick to those numbers and unrealistically assume the backlog does not grow, it would still take more than 2.5 years to process these claims under the current system.
A pastor in Montreal explains what the church is doing to help Haitian asylum seekers find a new home in Canada. That's coming up.
USA is not good, so they have to come here, so I can say nothing about that.
Montreal is very open and diverse city. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't happen.
Here are some of the stories making headlines this week.
Voters turning their outrage into online worldwide trends.
Why healthcare workers killed.
The opioid crisis is a health crisis.
So how do we weed out the noise?
Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
We have a lineup of religious leaders from the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities.
I'm Lorna Dueck.
And I'm Sheldon Neal.
And I'm Molly Thomas.
And you're watching Context Live. In the past months, 7,000 Haitian asylum seekers have illegally walked over our Canadian border looking for a home. Housing them, stabilizing them is a massive job, one that earlier Haitians arriving here know all too well. Rev Caleb Barth and his Montreal church, a largely Haitian congregation, have been working on that job. Rev Barth, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us, what has your church encountered with the Haitian asylum seekers fleeing into Quebec?
When I heard about the asylum seeker situation, what I did is that I called other pastors and said we need to do something. So the first thing we did, we organized a huge relief concert where we had about 1,000 people, and we were able to raise $4,500. And with that, we bought everything that they need, from school supplies to clothes to food, and we're able to help them and provide housing.
Okay, wow. The majority of your congregation is Haitian. How does this unexpected arrival, 7,000 and more,
yes,
how does it affect them in Quebec?
They did not speak French. A lot of them did not speak English, so we had to help them. We had to go with them. We had to provide help with computers and stuff like that. We have to help them find apartments, and thank God everybody was, from white people to black people, everybody was willing to help. So it made it a lot more easier.
Okay, help us with the compassion factor, because there are those who argue these 7,000 Haitians in Quebec jumped the queue, they crossed illegally.
Yes.
Why do you have compassion for that dilemma?
Because I've been to Haiti, I've been there to preach, and it's not right to let people live in such conditions. People live poorly, they can't expect a bright future, and Canada can provide way more opportunities, so I understand why they crossed the border. I don't think it was the best way, but I totally understand why.
Okay. These new Haitians, they can get work permits. Their children can go to school. What hurdles are they going to be facing in this temporary status?
In the near future, if they can't find permits to work and stuff like that, they're going to have to return to Haiti. But meanwhile, while they are there, our fight is to make sure that they are received with dignity, to make sure that they are fed, to make sure that they can have housing and stuff like that. What the government decide to do after, I don't know. It's up to them. But while they are there, we as a church are going to take care of them.
Okay. Now, what do the neighbors think of that, Pastor?
A lot of neighbors totally understand. Some people are so close-minded, but they don't know how's the situation in Haiti. So unless someone travels to that third world country, they'll never understand.
Okay, give us a glimpse. Help us understand.
I mean, people in Haiti, some people don't even expect 1 meal per day. Some people cannot even pay for school. There's no work. There's violent situation. So unless you have kids, it's not a bright future for them. So we had to make sure that we can help them, provide for them while they're in the country. But I've been to Haiti and it made me cry. We live a luxurious life in Montreal and they don't have nothing. Kids are starving. So unless someone has been there, they'll never understand why they cross the border.
All right. So let's now talk about your work as a pastor. You're actually working off a script.
Yes.
Biblical script. What does it tell you to do about this dilemma of neighbors that are saying, protect us, versus what you're finding spiritually?
God is all about love. And whenever you talk about love, you talk about giving. So love is not a word, love is an action. So even for the asylum seekers, but even for my neighbors, the neighbors around my church, we're always in the giving process. We're always giving school supplies. We're always providing clothing. We're always providing food. So not even for the asylum seekers, we're doing it all year long. For anybody who's in need, we open the doors of the church and we feed them.
So as we look at now settling new people, you've got language issues, you have got employment issues. How do you expect that is going to be absorbed?
I think a lot of them, unfortunately, will get back to Haiti. A lot of them will get back to Haiti because a lot of them are not really in danger. They are just poor, but they're not in danger. The government is not tracking them to kill them. So a lot of them, when people the government find the truth that they're not in danger, they'll be back in Haiti.
And how long will that process take?
I don't know, I'm not in the political realm, but I think within the next 2 years, a lot of them will be back in Haiti.
Even though we've been warned the queue is 11 years now because there's been so many unexpected, there's going to be a longer lineup for them.
Wow. That's even better for them. So it can stabilize their staying in Montreal. Maybe they'll find jobs. Maybe their kids will be. Well, you see, my thing as a pastor is I'm looking at the future of these kids, and there's no future for them in Haiti. There's no future for them in Haiti.
So you would say don't send them back, Canada?
To me, it's think about their kids, think about the future, and think about their motives. These people are not coming to rely on the system. They are coming, some of them are educated, some of them have their own money, some of them are some intellectuals. They come to work. They have not come to rely on the system. They have not come to abuse the system. So they have good motives.
So you would say, Canada, give our Haitian illegals a big, wide chance.
Give them a big, wide chance unless they come with bad motives.
All right,
but if they want to work, if they want to pay taxes, if they want to provide for their families, I don't see why.
Okay,
we should return them.
We have seen the reports where the police have checked them and saying the only thing the only crime they have committed is crossing over illegally. Help us with this. Why is Haiti so broken? You're saying these are hardworking people, they're professional people, they can work in Canada. Why can't they work in Haiti?
Haiti is broken because you have a majority of people who are wealthy that won't share with the masses. And whenever you have a government that is corrupt, there's not an atmosphere for people to work. There's not an atmosphere for people to study. Whenever the government and some elite people are keeping the money, people who are down are starving and starving and starving.
Canada has been one of the biggest aid deliverers to Haiti. After the earthquake, an entire area rebuilt. What do you think we should do about our aid trigger that has been going to Haiti?
First thing first, I think before giving money, we should fix the government problem. Because whenever you give money to a corrupt government, it's always going to be the same cycle.
All right. I'm curious what you feel the church is going to give to these people. What do you think your big group, helping them, aside from money, what do you think you're going to be able to give these new Haitians?
We give them, aside from money, we give them moral support. We're there to pray with them. We're there to provide their needs, make sure that they eat, make sure that they have chairs to sit, make sure that they have TVs to entertain themselves, and make sure that we can provide spiritual help, because they don't like their situation. It's not like they like being there on TV and begging for a country to stay. These people have honor. These people have pride. So we want to make sure that they feel welcome. We want to make sure that they feel love.
All right. And for those of you that are doing the giving, do you feel you're getting something back yourselves?
We feel that God is proud of us.
All right.
Because whenever your religion is not reaching people, what's the use of being in a religion? So we believe in the religion of love, and we do it in the name of Christ.
All right. Reverend Bartholus, thank you very much.
You have a nice day. Thanks for having me. God bless.
That was Reverend Caleb Bartholus, pastor of Centre Évangélique Universal. He joined me from Montreal, Quebec.
Just ahead, some say Haitian asylum seekers are jumping the queue and aren't being properly assessed. Others say they just want a better life in Canada. Let them in. As thousands flock to Canada's safety, is a rush to the borders of our country the new answer for refugees? Lorna Duick's snapshot is coming up.
Well, for what I've seen and read, there's not that much people now in comparison with other years, so I don't suppose that we have a real problem here. The fact is that the media has decided to put a very big emphasis about this particular kind of people asking. I think we are pretty much able to adapt.
Here are some of the stories making headlines this week.
Voters turning their outrage into online worldwide trends.
Why healthcare workers killed.
The opioid crisis is a health crisis.
So how do we weed out the noise?
Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
We have a lineup of religious leaders from the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities.
I'm Lorna Duick.
And I'm Sheldon Neal.
And I'm Molly Thomas.
And you're watching Context Live. The very mention of thousands of people crossing illegally into Canada makes me nervous. Protectionism rises up. In my mind, Canada is the best country in the world, and sharing it with illegals? Rules are rules. Well, actually, that is where the reality check of God's rules come into play. Yep, like the golden rule, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Makes me think deeply about the space and heart that we should have for those far less fortunate than ourselves. Lots to think about on this one. There's more on this at our website. For all of us at Context, I'm Lorna Duick. Thanks for watching.